Hello and welcome to 2026 and this video on 5 major Russian intelligence failures in just 10 days. It's quite something. First, their inability to stop operations carried out on their own soil, their inability to set things up properly. A false flag in which they wanted to blame Ukraine, but in the end they became the laughingstock of the world, and they even got caught in their own trap. By a counter-operation that was organized by the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Service, the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. We'll start with December 20, when the Ukrainian main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine claimed responsibility for covert sabotage against Russian fighter jets at the Lipetsk Airbase, several hundred kilometers from the front line. As shown in these images, there are Ukrainian agents, or maybe partisans, who managed to infiltrate a Russian military base. Inside a secured hangar, they set fire to several planes, including at least 2 Su-30 multi-role fighters. It's not the first time. There have been many operations where infrastructure was destroyed without long-range bombings. Acts of sabotage were organized, for example, against military planes or helicopters. On bases like this, explosives were placed on several Kamov 52s. Bridges and railways were destroyed, as in Bryansk, and there was also damage aboard military ships. For example, in the communications room of the Selpukov missile launcher, then docked in Kaliningrad. So, it's true that we're used to it, but after a while, you think they should at least be able to secure their infrastructure. That's still not the case. 2 days later in Moscow, another Russian general faces a targeted assassination attempt. General Fenil Savarov leads the operational training department. His car exploded in a South Moscow parking lot on December 22nd morning. 2 days later, an explosion 300 meters from the previous blast killed 2 police officers. The investigation showed these 2 police officers took part in the military operation against Ukraine, and there was evidence of it. And these are methods that are very similar to what Israel used to kill the Nazis responsible for the extermination of the Jews. And for decades, there had been targeted assassinations organized by the Israeli state. The third case involves a Russian claim that Ukraine sent 91 drones to attack one of Vladimir Putin's Russian palaces in an assassination attempt during the night of December 28th to 29th. That's why they're questioning the ongoing peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and Donald Trump. Obviously, then, the problem is that the residents of the region are saying on social media that they didn't hear any air defense fire in the area. Then Russia contradicts itself in the description of the attack. Since at first they talk about drones being sent over the entire Russian territory, and then all of these drones were supposedly sent only against Vladimir Putin's residence. Most obviously, there's no visible damage at all, while Russian air defense is now rather known for being unable to defend even its most sensitive military sites, against a much smaller number of Ukrainian drones that hit military infrastructure, oil facilities, factories and refineries every day. So all of this already makes things not very credible. And the worst part is that when, at the international level, the authorities, the Americans and so on, ask for evidence, well, Russia persists and claims that they don't have to provide any evidence and that we should take their word for it. Except in the end it doesn't work. They end up showing just one piece of debris from a small drone, a Shakloon 5, which even Russians admit can only carry 6 kilos of explosives, completely inadequate for attacking a building. The best part is the Russian officer showing the few electronic parts he recovered from the drone. He says they've already been analyzed, even though he just picked them up off the ground. They quickly realized the drone's mission was to target Putin's palace as easily as snapping their fingers in the snow. Just like that, so obviously it's ridiculous. And the worst part is that behind all this you have the CIA, which will officially deny this attack, simply because they can track the explosions. The United States and many countries with nuclear deterrence can detect ground explosions. For example, you have Fire Information for Resource Management System, which is normally used to identify and track forest fires, but has been repurposed to detect explosions. All over Ukraine. Well, in this case, they simply see that there are no explosions, and there is no fire, there is no blaze. There is nothing that can actually show that several dozen explosive drones were destroyed in the area, or simply that air defense systems, meaning rockets, were fired. And so all of this leads the CIA to officially deny Russia's claims, and for the first time to push back. Donald Trump, who officially says that it's actually Russia that's an obstacle to peace, and not Ukraine. That's the first time he's said it, since until now he's mainly pressured Ukraine to meet Russia's demands. So here it's potentially that failed Russian lie and possibly a strategic reversal. Now the Russians are trying to compensate. They're putting together pieces of drone debris they've recovered, claiming it's evidence so the Americans can analyze them. But obviously no one is fooled by this situation. The fifth case, the most recent one, maybe the most interesting, is about Denis Kapustin. First, you should know he is a Russian citizen leading the Russian Volunteer Corps in Ukraine, a group of Russians fighting with Ukraine against the Kremlin. So the unit. It engages in combat, mainly conducting cross-border raids, sabotage, psychological warfare, and symbolic media actions in Russian regions like Belgorod, Bryansk, and Kursk. It unites around 2,000 Russian fighters for Ukraine, including the Free Russia Legion. So Kapustin? He is clearly hated by Russia and the Kremlin and shouldn't just be neutralized, but made an example of. The Kremlin offers a $500,000 bounty for anyone who eliminates him. His death is finally announced on December 27th by Russian channels and later confirmed by the Russian Volunteer Corps. And so the news is widely picked up by the media all over the world. Except on January 1st, there's a dramatic twist. He reappears in a video call with Budanov, the head of the Ukrainian intelligence service. And they actually announced that this death was fake. It was part of a special operation that had been carried out for more than a month with the goal of identifying members of the Russian special services who had put a bounty on the head of Denis Kapustin. It also made it possible to take down an entire network of Russian agents on Ukrainian territory. But best of all, to collect the $500,000 reward, which will go to the main Intelligence Directorate Fund to continue carrying out clandestine operations on Russian territory. As we've seen 3 times in the last 10 days, so that's quite an impressive string of successes. All global intelligence services agree Ukrainians are now the best in the world. The CIA articles that say they can't really control them anymore, well, that's normal. It's a country at war, learning a lot and allowing itself to do many things. They take risks and succeed, even with high stakes and Israelis following them. Now, the world watches Ukraine to see how secret operations succeed. And on the other hand, you don't really see any spectacular success from Russia on Ukrainian territory. There are bombings and war, but overall nothing like Operation Spiderweb. You don't have soldiers infiltrating bases to directly destroy equipment. On the ground, drones aren't launching to bomb local airports or facilities. Everything is done from afar, showing the Ukrainian population is vigilant about such breaches. And then we still see an overall situation where the Russian intelligence services are now just a shadow of what the KGB used to be, which was highly feared at the time. With one detail, though, on our European territory, we don't have the resilience and maturity to see what's happening. We lack the weapons Ukrainians acquire, so Russians carry out derailments, sabotage, infrastructure destruction, explosions and assassinations on our territory. To target in Ukraine if drones flew over sensitive military sites, like France, we had the Ile-Longue nuclear base and the Crike base, home to the Military Intelligence Directorate. Simply put, these drones would have been intercepted and destroyed immediately. And we're not capable of that, so we really need to strengthen ourselves on that front as well. There you go. It was a very short video. I hope you enjoyed it. In any case, I think it was worth taking a moment to talk about these operations because we don't talk about them very much. But in reality, it still has a significant overall effect on Russia, on their morale, on their capabilities. Also, seeing that they are not supported by their own population, that they are not careful enough, that their territory is very large and poorly defended. That's nothing new. Hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.